Alrighty then. Let's try this. All right. This is session number 131 of Kevin Reed's A Course in Miracles. And today's session, we are still in chapter 16, which is the forgiveness of illusions. And this is section 5, okay, Roman numeral 5, right? And it's entitled The Choice for Completion on page 341 in the text. The choice for completion. And what it's going to come down to is what is it that you want? Jesus is eventually going to tell us in this section that to the ego, completion is triumph. In other words, the triumph over God. I split from God. I'm the winner. I triumphed over God. Right? And to the Holy Spirit, completion is the return to your natural state, the return to who you really are, that existence in the mind of God, that existence in heaven. Okay, that's a term that we use. All right. So either we exist in heaven or we exist in separation, the triumph of separation. And now in this section, it's going to be the choice for completion. All right, what is it will complete you? Okay. And we've been talking about special relationships. All right, the original special relationship being with the ego, because we ask God to recognize us. This is the Course's mythology, so to speak. Right, the Son of God, the one Son of God, wanted to be recognized as an individual. Wanted to be recognized. Right? God just didn't do that, and the Son became enraged and hateful and said, "I'll do it myself." And the ego presents the alternative. Right? Come with me. I'll give you what your perceived need is. I will supply it to you, the ego says. So there's all of a sudden there's this perceived need for individuation, for being recognized, and the ego says, I will supply that. And so we go into that special relationship with the ego. And that's the beginning of the history of the world here and the universe. Okay. So let's just begin and see what Jesus has to say. Okay. Paragraph 1. In looking at the special relationship, it is necessary first to realize that it involves a great amount of pain. Anxiety, despair, guilt, and attack all enter into it, broken into periods in which they seem to be gone. All these must be understood for what they are. Whatever form they take, they are always an attack on the self to make the other guilty. I have spoken of this before, but there are some aspects of what is really being attempted that have not been touched upon. Let's just continue. Paragraph 2. Very simply, the attempt to make guilty is always directed at God. For the ego would have you see him and him alone as guilty, leaving the sonship open to attack and unprotected from it. The special love relationship is the ego's chief weapon for keeping you from heaven. It does not appear to be a weapon, but if you consider how you value it and why, you will realize what it must be. paragraph 3, the special relationship is the ego's most boasted gift, and one which has the most appeal to those unwilling to relinquish the guilt. The dynamics of the ego are clearest here, for counting on the attraction of this offering, the fantasies that center around it are often quite overt. Here they are usually judged to be acceptable and even natural. No one considers it bizarre to love and hate together. And even those who believe that hate is sin merely feel guilty, but do not correct it. This is the natural condition of the separation, and those who learn that it is not natural at all seem to be the unnatural ones. For this world is the opposite of heaven, being made to be its opposite, and everything here takes a direction exactly opposite of what is true. In heaven, where the meaning of love is known, love is the same as union. Here, where the illusion of love is accepted in God's place, in love's place, love is perceived as separation and exclusion. We're in an exclusive relationship with whatever. It's me and the person, place, or thing. It's an exclusive relationship. Okay? No one gets my ice cream. Okay? And so, I mean, we went into 3 paragraphs, but they seem to be a very sequential thought. Right. In looking at the special relationship, okay, you have to look at it and realize it involves pain. All right, it's a great amount of pain. All right, we're not aware of the original decision to believe I separated from God, which was just created an enormous amount of pain. But here in this world, we notice that we think this is going to complete us or give us what we need, right? Make us happy or give us pleasure or make us feel peaceful or make us feel safe, whatever. We enter into that relationship. But then we notice that it's not complete bliss. There's something, you know, like they say, there's the give and take into every life. A little rain must fall, and all that. Okay, and you notice it in your interpersonal relationships, especially if you have long-term relationships or serious relationships, whatever you want to call it. Significant, I guess we would use that word these days. Because there's the, you know, some days I hate him, some days I hate her. You know, he's always doing this and I can't stand it, or he says this, and then they say, well, what do you say? Well, I really do love him. All right, there's that, the elements of love and hate seem to be natural to go together. And everybody thinks it's natural. You know, there's one place in the book where Jesus says, call it what you want, but don't call it love. All right? But we, as human beings in the human condition, throughout history, you know, history supports it, of course, it seems natural. It just seems natural. And the people that come along and point to it and say, that's not the natural state. All right? Your natural state is unified in oneness with all-inclusive love. And people look at them like they're crazy. What are you talking about? And they'll pick out, a particularly despicable person, place, or thing, and it's, how could you love him? How could you keep him in that circle of of love. All right? You're a nut. All right? You can't love everyone. All right? So it seems to be natural. Right? He says, because this world is the opposite of heaven. So everything is opposite. Okay? And he even says that the fantasies that center around the special relationship are quite overt because we've accepted them throughout history. There's genres of literature that are dedicated to romance, and everything that goes with it, and fantasy, and everything is just wonderful. Everything works out. The prince wakes up the sleeping beauty, and they live happily ever after. They forget to mention that the sleeping beauty gets all ticked off when the prince doesn't take out the garbage. Or whatever. Or the prince snores. Or the prince makes too much noise when he's eating. Whatever. Then all of a sudden it starts to wear on you. Oh, every day. And there's a billion things that can get on your last nerve, as they say, right? But the wonderful things about special love relationships, he says they're quite overt. They're not hidden. Everybody seems to love it, and they think it's normal to go for that. No one considers it bizarre to love and hate together. Right? So nobody thinks it's bizarre. Oh, some days I hate him. Come on. Okay? And when you do that, when you get so angry at your partner, then you might feel guilty about it. For a little while. She says you feel guilty, but you don't correct it. You don't correct it by saying, wait, this is bothering me. I think they're the culprit. They're guilty of something. Could you help me see it correctly? That would be correcting it. Right? But no, we think it's just, that's the way it is. That's the way it is. All right? So, and we think I'm just saying we think it's natural. All right? That this is what's going to complete me. Okay? The ego says, I will give you what you need. That's the original. Because I got angry at God, I turned my back on God, and automatically felt the loss of everything. I just turned my back on everything, and the ego goes, come on, let's go. I got what you need. Right? It's like the old timers in the neighborhood used to say, tell you what I'm going to do for you because I like you. That's the ego. It says, come with me because I like you. All right? I'm going to give you what you need. All right? Okay. And then you know the rest of the story. You lived that story. All right? Because here, in paragraph 3, sentence 8, here, where the illusion of love is accepted in love's place, love is perceived as separation and exclusion. All right? First of all, I'm separated from God. But then, it's me and my special love relationship. We are separated from the rest of the world, which is very threatening and crazy and all kinds of things. and we are exclusive. We exclude those who don't think the way we do. Okay? So here the illusion of love is accepted in love's place. Right? The special relationship is always in place of. Right? In place of God, in place of God's love, in place of who you are. We turn our backs on who we are. Okay. Let's go to paragraph 4. All right. It is in the special relationship, born of the hidden wish for special love from God, that the ego's hatred triumphs. For the special relationship is the renunciation of the love of God, the attempt to secure for the self the specialness that he denied. It is essential to the preservation of the ego that you believe this specialness is not hell, but heaven. For the ego would never have you see that separation could only be loss, being the one condition in which heaven could not be. So the one condition in which heaven cannot be is in the condition of separation. Okay? So the ego would never let you see that the separation could only be a loss. Right? What else could it be? I separated from everything. Okay? So it's a loss, but the ego won't let us see that. Now, and the ego, what the ego does when we project and miscreate the universe is that we have split off from who we really are and we forget. Right? What you dissociate from, you forget. So we have dissociated from our true self and we have forgotten. And all we're trying to do here is remember. Right? Because who you are never changes, who you really are. Your Christ nature, okay, never changes. It's always there, waiting to be remembered. That's why they use the poetic terms like, you are at home in God, dreaming of exile. Okay? Who you really are is never interrupted. We're just believing these illusions. Okay. So the special relationship is the attempt to secure the specialness that God denied. Right? It's not that God said no, just didn't pay attention. Over here, look at me. And God just kept extending love, extending everything. All right. So it's born of the hidden wish for special love from God. All right. For the special relationship is the renunciation of the love of God. It's like, okay, I do it myself. I get love over here. Right? I feel like I'm lacking love now, so I'll get it over here. And, check yourself. We go to a lot of different places to find love, what it is we think we need. Right? And we're not making fun of it here. We're just saying to look at it. It's just look at it, okay? And be very gentle with yourself, because you are the child that thinks it's alone. You're the child in the big department store, right? You're lost among racks of coats, and you don't know where your mom or dad is, right? And then a lot of feelings come over you. You'll do a lot of crazy things to get back to mom, to get back to dad. So be very nice to yourself, okay? All right, I have a tendency to I don't know, look at things humorously, but we're not making fun of the situation here. This is the way it is. Jesus just says, just look at it. Right? Because everybody thinks it's a natural thing to do. And that's what the ego wants. It's just keep you mindless. Right? And so the world reinforces all these beliefs. Right? You know, you have hundreds, thousands of years of writing that talk about special relationships and wonderful unions, all right? And it's always with the bodies. Okay. So it's born of the hidden wish for special love from God. All right, so let's look at paragraph 5. To everyone, heaven is completion. There can be no disagreement on this, because both the ego and the Holy Spirit accept it. They are, however, in complete disagreement on what completion is and how it is accomplished. Right? The Holy Spirit knows that completion lies first in union. That's the union with God. And then in the extension of union. To the ego, completion lies in triumph and in the extension of the victory, even to the final triumph over God. In this, it sees the ultimate freedom of the self, for nothing would remain to interfere with the ego. This is its idea of heaven. And therefore union, which is a condition in which the ego cannot interfere, must be hell. Right? So the ego really can't interfere with your union with God, because that's who you are. Right? But the ego will try to convince us that that's hell. All right? You're going to suffer, God's going to get you when you meet him again, all that. Love makes us afraid of love. Love is going to destroy this body. All right? The love of God is going to just make you disappear. You're going to die. Right? All the crazy thoughts that enter our mind as we approach the memory of who we are. All right? So he says the ego and the Holy Spirit, they accept the fact that heaven is completion. The thing is, the ego doesn't want you to get there, because once you remember heaven, the ego it's gone. It vanishes. It no longer seems to exist. Okay, so it fights for its existence. It wants to make us afraid, first of all, not even think that you have a mind where there's a choice to be made. Right? So it tells you don't go into the mind. That's where, evil things are waiting for you in your mind. Okay? And this is its idea of heaven, that it's hellish. All right? And therefore, union, which is a condition in which the ego cannot interfere, must be hell. So the ego counsels us that this union with God is very hellish. You're going to suffer. Paragraph 6. The special relationship is a strange and unnatural ego device for joining hell and heaven and making them indistinguishable. And the attempt to find the imagined best of both worlds has merely led to fantasies of both, and to the inability to perceive either as it is. The special relationship is the triumph of this confusion. It is a kind of union from which union is excluded, and the basis for the attempt at union rests on exclusion. Much better example would be the ego's maxim of seek and do not find. Okay? So the special relationship, a strange and unnatural ego device for joining heaven and hell, okay, making them indistinguishable. We think, oh, this is it, this is it, this is Mr. Right, this is Mrs. Right, right? Or Ms. Right, I forget the proper titles. All right, but whatever it is, it's gonna make me feel like I'm in heaven. Okay? But, like I say, down the road, little hell keeps creeping back in there. So it's just a strain and unnatural ego device for joining heaven and hell and making them indistinguishable. Right? So now you can't even tell the difference after a while. So it's an attempt to find the imagined best of both worlds. And it has merely led to fantasies of both. So it just leads to fantasies of what's heavenly, what's wonderful. All right? And the inability to perceive either as it is. So we become unable to perceive the ego relationship for what it is. It's based on separation. Right? It's based on exclusion. Right? And it can't work out. It can't lead to the oneness. And he says that, so the special relationship is the triumph of this confusion. We can't tell heaven from hell anymore. Right? So you think you can tell, right? You know how it's come up in a song, right? Heaven from hell, blue skies from pain. Right? Pink Floyd. So you think you can tell. And that's verbalizing, lyricizing the confusion. We can't tell the difference anymore. Blue skies from pain. Okay? It's the kind of union from which union is excluded. So he's punning here. All right? It's the kind of union, me and the special relationship, in which union is excluded. I don't join with God. I don't join with the memory of who I am. I'm joining with some kind of an illusion, okay? And he says, and that's what the ego does. And he says, what better example could there be of the ego's maxim? Seek, but do not find. Right? That's what the ego does as we exist in this experience here. Right? We're constantly looking. We set up goals for ourselves. And, when the ego delights if we don't reach the goal, favorite goal of mine is to, do the wash. So if the wash is piling up, the ego delights because I feel bad about oh, you didn't do it, That's a little thing, You go setting up all these goals for yourself. I have to, achieve this, attain that. And then, have to make it. Right? If I can make it here, I'll make it anywhere. That's what they say about New York. But that's just a song, bros and sisters. Believe me. All All right, seek but do not find is what the ego's maxim should be. All right, and the first thing we do is we seek for completion in the ego, in the separation, and we keep looking for it, all right, because we do not find it. Paragraph 7, most curious of all is the concept of the self, which the ego fosters in the special relationship. This self seeks the relationship to make itself complete. Yet when it finds the special relationship in which it thinks it can accomplish this, it gives itself away and tries to trade itself for the self of another. This is not union, for there is no increase and no extension. Each partner tries to sacrifice the self he does not want for the one he thinks he would prefer. And he feels guilty for this, the sin of taking and of giving nothing of value in return. How much value can he place upon a self that he would give away to get a better one? Okay? So this is sometimes not so subtle, but it's a subtle dynamic that goes on. You know, it's like, oh, I'm going to be with this person. That person just make me better, you know. And that's what he means by you giving away something that you don't really like, right? To get something better, to become better, right? Then, deep down inside, you feel guilty because you're taking something and you're not giving anything because you don't see your own self-worth. So how much value can he place upon a self that he would give away in order to get a better one? Okay? This is a psychological spirituality. Okay? Never forget that. And it's not to throw you into any despair. It's just to open up the process of looking and saying, oh yeah, no, that's what I do. What else would I do? I believe I'm separated from God. And so this is the way I behave. So now, if you're not judging yourself, you can say, it really doesn't work. Excuse me. I don't feel that. I don't feel good. You know, not always happy. Right? Not in a constant state of peace. And you don't judge yourself for it because we believe we're egos and we're working our way out of it. So the idea is to look at what we do. And then ask Jesus, Holy Spirit, to correct it. Help me to correct this. I want to see through the eyes of peace. I want to be peaceful. I want to be happy. Okay. Paragraph 8, the better self the ego seeks is always one that is more special. And whoever seems to possess a special self is loved for what can be taken from him. Where both partners see this special self in each other, the ego sees a union made in heaven. For neither one will recognize that he has asked for hell, and so he will not interfere with the ego's illusion of heaven, which it offered him to interfere with heaven. Yet, if all illusions are of fear, and they can be of nothing else, the illusion of heaven is nothing more than an attractive form of fear, in which the guilt is buried deep and rises in the form of love. In quotes. All right? So he says, we're not even aware of the guilt that lies very deep. That guilt that says I'm lacking something, I separated from everything, I'm lacking something. this person is going to supply that lack, and the other person is looking at me and thinking the same thing, right? That's the union made in heaven. Okay? And that's the purpose, right? And so we will not interfere, right, with the ego's illusion of heaven, which is offered him in order to interfere with heaven, so that I never go to my mind and unite with the memory of who I am. Okay? Yet, if all illusions are a form of fear, and they can be nothing else, the illusion of heaven is nothing more than an attractive form of fear, okay, in which the guilt is buried deep. Right? So it's an attractive form of fear. Anything based in separation is based in fear. Right? Even though it's buried so deep, you don't realize it. You know, even people that walk around screaming and yelling at everybody. You know, oh, he's so powerful. You don't want him to get angry at you, because he is afraid of something. Okay, and he covers it up with the brutishness of anger and threats. Right. So, paragraph 9: the appeal of hell lies only in the terrible attraction of guilt, which the ego holds out to those who place their faith in littleness. The conviction of littleness lies in every special relationship, for only the deprived could value specialness. The demand for specialness and the perception of giving of specialness as an act of love would make love hateful. The real purpose of the special relationship, in strict accordance with the ego's goals, is to destroy reality and substitute illusion. For the ego is itself an illusion, and only illusions can be witnesses to its reality. Okay. The appeal of hell lies in the terrible attraction of guilt. Guilt is attractive because the thought of separation and individuality is attractive. That's what makes guilt so attractive. All right? Because if I'm guilty, that means I did separate. I broke away. I broke away from God. I did it. I mean, think about it, it's crazy. But that's the dynamics. It's what makes the world go round. Right? So the appeal of hell lies only in the terrible attraction of guilt. And guilt, the ego holds out guilt to those who place their faith in littleness. Right? I place my faith in the ego, the thought of separation. And I become little. All right? All right. I wish it was a little littler, but that's just the ego, right? All right. But that's that littleness is that thought. It's never form. It's all in content. Whereas now I think I'm little. Now I have to get myself built up. All right? I've turned my back on my grandness, my magnanimity. I've turned my back on that. And the conviction of littleness lies in every special relationship. Right? Because only the deprived could value specialness. Only if I think deep down inside I'm lacking something would I look for completion outside in a special relationship. All right? So the demand for specialness and the perception of giving of specialness as an act of love would actually make love hateful. Right? The real purpose of the special relationship is to destroy reality, right, and substitute illusion. Right? That's the real purpose of the special relationship, is to destroy reality, which is I am one with God. I am the offspring of God. And I am in union with all these pieces that think they're separate. They are part of the one Son of God. Right? So, the ego's special relationship wants to destroy that and substitute the illusion. I'm in union with this person, or this job, or this thing that, gives me what I need. Right? For the ego is itself an illusion, and only illusions can be the witnesses to its reality. So everything in this world is an illusion, witnessing, so to speak, to the reality of separation. Okay? Hence the exhortation to look. Just continue to look at what we're doing, what we're thinking, without judgment. All right? Hey, you thought you could separate. All right? Doesn't make you bad. Just makes you miserable. Okay. If you perceive the special relationship as a triumph over God, would you want it? Right? Whatever special relationship you're striving for or you're in, he says, if you perceived it as a victory over God, he goes, would you really want it? Right? Let us not think of its fearful nature, nor of the guilt it must entail, nor of the sadness and the loneliness, for these are only attributes of the whole religion of separation, and of the total context in which it is thought to occur. The central theme in its litany to sacrifice is that God must die so that you can live. And it is this theme that is acted out in the special relationship. Through the death of yourself, you think you can attack another self and snatch it from the other to replace the self that you despise. And you despise it because you do not think it offers the specialness that you demand. And hating it, you have made it little and unworthy because you are afraid of it. So, this is a section that it would behoove us all to reread it, right, and let it sink in. Right? So the central theme is that in the special relationship is that God must die in order that I live. And that's the original. Right? I want to be an individual. No answer from God. All right? You have to go, and so I can live. I have to destroy this oneness. All right? And you along with it. So I have to destroy that. So that's why he asks us. He says, if you knew, if you perceived that this special relationship was a triumph over God, he goes, would you really want it? Right? And he says it's a theme that's acted out in special relationship. Right? Because we think we're getting something from the other. Right? We're getting something that we're lacking. All right? So we're trading off this thing that I don't like for something better. Right? And you despise it because you think it doesn't give you the specialness that you demand. All right? We think we're lacking something, so that's what Jesus means by you despise yourself because you think you're lacking something. Right? And hating it, you've made it little and unworthy. Right? Because you're afraid of it. Paragraph 11. How can you grant unlimited power to what you think you have attacked? So fearful has the truth become to you that unless it is weak and little and unworthy of value, you would not dare to look upon it. You think it safer to endow the little self you made with power you wrested from truth, triumphing over it and leaving it helpless. See how exactly in this ritual enacted, see how exactly is this ritual enacted in the special relationship. An altar is erected between the two separate people on which each seeks to kill the self, and on his body raise another self to take its power from his death. Over and over this ritual is enacted, and it is never completed, nor ever will be. The ritual of completion cannot complete, for life arises not from death, nor heaven from hell. Okay? Jesus is alluding to, in this paragraph, the idea of the body and blood of Christ. Right? The ritual is enacted every day, right? From which those who partake in the ritual, they gain life from the death of the Son of God in the Christian religion. All right. And he's saying that's not the way it works. All right. He says, would you want this to be possible? Right. Even apart from the fact that it can't be possible. Wherever any form of special relationship tempts you to seek for love in ritual, remember love is content, not form. Right? So there's many rituals in this world, right? But he says that love is not in a form of any kind. It is content. It's the content of your mind. It's what is there. Right? It's not found in any rituals. Right? A special relationship is a ritual of form, aimed at raising the form to take the place of God at the expense of content. So we eventually become to look at the form in place of the content. All right? And hence the philosopher says, to paraphrase, that Jesus came to point the way to heaven, and people started to worship his finger. Right? They're worshiping the form, worshiping the body, right? Instead of the message, the content. Right? Love is who and what you are. That's the content. Okay? So the special relationship is a ritual, right? A ritual of form, aimed at raising the form to take the place of God at the expense of content. There is no meaning in the form, and there never will be. The special relationship must be recognized for what it is, a senseless ritual in which strength is extracted from the death of God and invested in his killer. as the sign that form has triumphed over content and love has lost its meaning. He says, would you want this to be possible? Even apart from its evident impossibility? He said, would you want this to be possible, that you live because God dies? Because would you want that to be possible? You know, besides the fact that it's impossible. Okay? If it were possible, you would have made yourself helpless. Right? If it were possible to kill off God and get the power, he says, you really would have made yourself helpless. Right? But you can't do that. God is always there, and you are a part of that. So you are not helpless. You are extremely powerful. Right? And we're not talking in a sense of form. We're talking in the sense of extending love and everything everywhere. Right? Being eternally blissful. Right? Eternally secure. All those things. And I love this sentence, sentence 7 in paragraph 12 at the top of the page. He says, God is not angry. Period. Simple sentence. God is not angry. All right? He merely could not let this happen. Right? Just couldn't let you separate. Couldn't let you be an individual. They couldn't let you break up oneness. You cannot change his mind. Right? No rituals that you have set up in which the dance of death delights you can bring death to the eternal. Nor can your chosen substitute for the wholeness of God have any influence at all upon it. Right? No matter what dance you do. Right? And I like the alliteration here, because I used to be an English teacher. All right? He says, no matter, no rituals that you have set up in which the dance of death delights you. So all these rituals, whatever it is, you know, marriage, the marriage ceremonies, whatever rituals we have, and what he means by the dance of death delights you is the idea of separation. Right? And we're separated. We're reinforcing the ego's ideas. Right? And he says it can't bring you, right? It can't bring death to the eternal. You cannot change who you are. You cannot change God. Nor can your chosen substitute for the wholeness of God have any influence at all upon it. Right? No matter what you do, you can't influence the wholeness of God. Right? You can't influence the oneness. You can't influence who you truly are. Right? You can only believe you're something else. You can only make believe and convince yourself. All right, so see this, paragraph 13. See in the special relationship nothing more than a meaningless attempt to raise other gods before him, and by worshiping them to obscure their tininess and his greatness. In the name of your completion, you do not want this. For every idol that you raise to place before him stands before you in place of what you are. As I say, we should be moved to reread these things, right? And from time to time, read it again, and let your mind open up to where you're going beyond the intellect. For every idol you raise to place before God, and that's every special relationship we have. I can have a relationship with money, have a relationship with sex, with working, with fashion. Obviously not my obsession, but you know, there's all kinds of relationships we can have. He says we raise those relationships to put them in, to substitute for God. All right? But he says what it really does is it stands before you, right? In place of what you are. Right? We're trying to make God tiny. He says you can't do it. Just try to do your best. You're going to knock yourself out. Right? And usually, after we've knocked ourselves out a few times, we come to a place where we say, help me, please. I'm tired of knocking myself out. Right? Because he says, in the name of your completion, which is heaven, your oneness, in the name of your oneness, he says, you don't want this. Right? You just don't want it. So we have to come to that conclusion ourselves. Like I say, it's not about judgment. You're not being cast into the fiery Gehenna. Right? You're not being dangled over the flames like a bug on a string. Right? An ancient Puritan reference that I probably just mangled, but what are you going to do? All right? This is because every idol you raise to place before him stands before you. That's a declaration of who you are in regards to God. You are that. You're that close in communication with God. All right? And we're working to allow that memory to rise up. All right? Paragraph 14. Salvation lies in the simple fact that illusions are not fearful because they're not true. They but seem to be fearful to the extent to which you fail to recognize them for what they are. And you will fail to do this to the extent to which you want them to be true. And to the same extent you are denying truth. And so are failing to make the simple choice between truth and illusion, God and fantasy. Remember this, and you will have no difficulty in perceiving the decision as just what it is and nothing more. Right? We'll be able to cut through the chatter, the noise, and realize what we're deciding for is union with God or fantasy. All right? And just notice when you've chosen fantasy. Right? Don't put on a hair shirt. Don't condemn yourself and punish yourself. All right? That's silly. That's reinforcing the ego anyway. Just look. Just look at it, and with the love of God around you. Right? That's what Jesus represents. All right? If we sit down with Jesus and say, help me look at this. What we're doing is we're looking at that with love around us. Unconditional love. Right? God is not angry. Jesus is not angry. All right? No matter what they say about the money changers in the temple, Jesus is not angry. Right? Jesus is not cursing any fig trees. Okay? It's unconditional love. And with that around you, suppose you think about a person that loves you, all right? And you come to them and you say, I did this, and they say, it's okay. It's okay, honey. All right? And we'll just look for ways to avoid doing that again. don't worry, we're not going to punish you for that. You don't need to be punished. You simply made a mistake in judgment. You made an error. You have that's what Jesus is, okay? He is that loving friend who's never angry, okay? And will always be there to say, okay, let's look at this. Let's see what this is all about. And let me show you the truth about yourself and the other. Let me help you understand. Okay? And because he says salvation lies in the simple fact that illusions are not fearful. Because they're not true. Mommy, there's somebody under my bed. There's somebody in a closet. All right, and Mommy comes up and opens the closet. And says, look, there's nothing there. It's not true. And unless love's meaning is restored to you, you cannot know yourself and share its meaning. Right? Separation is only the decision not to know yourself. This whole thought system is a carefully contrived learning experience designed to lead you away from truth and into fantasy. So this whole world, this whole ego thought system, based on the idea that I separated from God, all right, a lie, all right, but it's based on a lie, okay, but it's a carefully contrived learning experience designed to lead you away from truth and into fantasy. So this world will lead us away from truth and into fantasy. All kinds of fantasies. All right? So, yet for every learning that would hurt you, God offers you correction and complete escape from all its consequences. So from everything that will try to convince us that we are divorced from truth, that we are not who we are, he says there is a correction for it. Right? For every learning that would hurt you, God offers you correction and complete escape from all its consequences. All right. Starting with the idea that I separated from God, God offers the correction, right, and escape from all the consequences of that belief. All right. So we work our way back, right? Because everything that we are experiencing are the consequences of the belief in separation. So let's take them as they come along. All right, let's climb that ladder, cross that bridge. All right, by asking for the correction. Could you help me see this correctly, please? I'm looking at it through the eyes of separation. All right, I prefer to see through the eyes of peace and love and unity. All right. God offers you correction and complete escape from all its consequences, from all the consequences of the mistaken ideas. 16. The decision whether or not to listen to this course and follow it is but the choice between truth and illusion. For here is truth, separated from illusion and not confused with it at all. How simple does this choice become when it is perceived as only what it is? For only fantasies make confusion in choosing possible, and they are totally unreal. Fantasies are totally unreal, and only fantasies make confusion possible. Right? So he says the decision whether or not to listen to this course and follow it is but the choice between truth and illusion. Right? For here is truth. And in this text, in this, all these works in the course, it's not confused at all. Right? It separates the illusion. Right? And how simple does the choice become when it is perceived as only what it is? So when we perceive something as, oh, that's just an illusion, so the choice becomes easier. Right? Would you like to remember your union with God? Right? Or would you like to have this confusing and crazy, decision for conflict? So he says this year, right? Because this, once again, the Christmas and the New Year time had come around when Helen was writing this down. This year is the time to make the easiest decision that ever confronted you, and also the only one. You will cross the bridge into reality simply because you will recognize that God is on the other side. And nothing at all is here. It is impossible not to make the natural decision as this is realized. So as we continue to work, help me to see this correctly. Help me to correct my mistaken vision. Right? He says it'll become clearer and clearer to you that on the other side of the bridge, so to speak, is God. And on this side, there's nothing. Okay? He says, and then he says, it's impossible not to make the natural decision as this is realized. He says, so what do you want to do? You want to decide between everything and nothing. All right? God and nothing. He said, it'll become a very natural decision. All right? And we do that by noticing what we're doing. All right? By looking. All right? And looking at the special relationship. And that means looking at it with the realization that love is all around you. You're not guilty of anything. Okay? So, very powerful section. Okay? Very powerful. And I always say, I suggest that people reread it, not only reread it, but to get deeper and deeper understanding of what the Course is saying. I always encourage people to go to find the works of Dr. Kenneth Wapnick, all right, the original teacher of the Course. Helen and Bill were the scribes. They took it down and typed it out. All right, Helen was the one who heard, so to speak, the inner voice, giving her all this to write down. All right? And Bill Thetford would meet her in the morning and they would type out what she wrote down in shorthand. All right? So with that collaboration, came the Course after 7 years or so. All right? And there's a workbook for students, there's a manual for teachers, there's pamphlets on psychotherapy, all right, on forgiveness, because people were making mistakes right off the bat. But anyway, I encourage people to go to FACIM.org, the Foundation for A Course in Miracles, right, where there's a treasure trove of Dr. Wapnick. All right, just a very loving teacher of the Course in Miracles. All right, and he brings you deeper and deeper into what the Course is trying to tell us here. All right, I will leave you with that, reluctantly. All right, I feel like I want to stay, but here we go. And I will see you and talk to you next time. I appreciate your being here. Thank you.